Peter, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing well. Creepy movie, scary movie. Were you a fan of that sort of thing? And if so, what did you draw inspiration on?
What did I draw inspiration on? Well, my character is very kind of rich, kind of douchey kind of guy. So yeah, I drew inspiration from just people I've met in like Long Island, where I kind of went to school and stuff. So yeah, that's where I got it from. And sometimes we all have a little inner douchebag, and we get to let it out a little bit. So yeah, that's where I got my inspiration.
How was it working with Brandon Routh? Cool guy?
Very, very cool. One of the nicest guys ever. To the point where you're like, am I an asshole for?
Did I bring the douchebag out too much?
Yeah. He said like hello and nice to meet you and shook my hand 10 times. Maybe I should have done it 10 more times. I'm really out of my element here on the niceness. So yes, one of the greatest guys ever. Sincerely.
Is it scary shooting a scary movie? I've always wondered. Like, do you get creeped out yourself doing it? Or?
Do I get creeped? Not quite the same. When we're there, we don't see all the same stuff. But when we were in the school, there were eerie moments because it's so big and cavernous and dark and empty. So there were times where you could feel the ambiance. Maybe a little spooked sometimes, but nothing too crazy.
What do you think of Austin, Texas so far?
Oh, it's great. I'm also a comedian, so I've been doing some shows at Austin. Great comedy scene, great food, hot, obviously, but it's not bad. I've been getting my tan. Yeah, it's working out for me.
Thank you, sir. It's nice to meet you. Okay, you got your Whalen hat on. Was Alien inspiration for you?
Alien is absolutely an inspiration. It's an inspiration for every person that ever tries anything in horror. It's the most definitive horror movie of the last 40 years.
Did you like the new movie, by the way?
I'm sorry?
Did you like the new movie?
I did. I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I liked it too.
It's a great return to form.
Yeah. So I was overhearing you say this is kind of for kids. This is like a starter horror movie for kids. Talk about that.
It is. It's a starter horror for kids. It'll be scary for kids. It'll be scary for 12, 13, 14, 15. I mean, when you get to like 30, 40, you're going to see all my tricks. And I can't fool the audience at that point, And let's face it, to scare audiences after a certain point in this desensitized age, you got to go way out there. But you know what? You don't need to do that for kids. I don't want to do that to kids. I don't want them to walk out of this with nightmares. I actually, weirdly enough, want them to walk out of it with a sense of fun and hope and connection, and to be able to watch this again and have fun. That's all it is. That's all it is.
Yeah. I was talking to the other guys about the role of humor in horror. I feel like it's almost essential because it makes you comfortable and then it makes you, kicks you to the ground when it's real scary. Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, the way humor and horror work differently in different movies. Obviously, sometimes it's a stress release. Sometimes it's kind of the point of it that you want to get to the actual humor of it. And some films you tend to like. There's a thing called a horror comedy, and then there's things that are comedy horrors. I would actually put Ick in the comedy horror genre because the laughs are just as big as the scares, and I make no apologies about it. It's a fun movie. You're supposed to laugh at it. You're not supposed to take it seriously.
Thank you, sir. Congrats. I appreciate it. You play a school teacher who's like battling this parasitic entity, and it's called the Ick. Just Ick. Anything else people need to know before going into the movie?
Be ready to have fun. This is the kind of movie that we haven't seen for a little bit, and we need it. This is the kind of movie that people my age grew up on, and people around my age. But it's redefined. It's a newer version of those the mid '90s and late '80s movies that kids who were in their teenage years during that time loved. The kind of magical quality, also with horror and thrills, that we used to have in a lot of cinema, which for me, that was always the thing I liked to go because I wanted to see something that was going to surprise me and be bigger and badder than the next thing. And I think with Ick, Joseph has reinvented that genre of movies. Like, it's kind of a mix between Varsity Blues, Faculty, a little bit of Jurassic Park even there as far as the scheme of how the scares and everything works, and then classic monster movies, Blob, things like that. And it's very funny, but not in your face funny, very smart funny, and it's a roller coaster. So be ready you won't be able to go pee too much. Okay. That's a good thing. You
don't want to miss it.
That's a good thing to know. It's not long, so it's only an hour and a half. So.
Okay. Yeah. Before you mentioned the faculty and the blob, I was thinking like the faculty, or it's also kind of like the blob.
Yeah. I mean, faculty, the tone of that movie is very uniquely its own. You know, I think that's what's cool about these older movies. They don't feel the same, and Joseph movies feels like some of all of that in a new version, which is fun and scary and a little bit gross and thrilling and funny. And I hope just kind of a bit of a...
So tell me, what's the fun of adding the everyday...
I hesitate to say heartwarming story because it's a horror movie, but, there are some light moments that are nice to have every once in a while.
What's your favorite horror movie of all time?
I don't know if this qualifies. Shaun of the Dead. Shaun of the Dead. Okay, that's a good one. That's my. Maybe that's more of a monster and a zombie movie. I don't know the classification, but I think it's really interesting to see zombies and all these different manifestations of monsters and the supernatural and how we deal with it. But I like a little bit of comedy with it.
I was a big fan of Superman Returns. Are you keeping up with all this stuff? Are you looking forward to seeing the new movie?
Oh, very much looking forward. I really want to see the new Chris Reeve documentary. It's only out, I think, in theaters one more day. But
Superman, Super Slash Man.
Yes, yeah. I'm excited. I think James and Peter are going to do really good things. I'm blown away by what he did with Guardians of the Galaxy and everything. So I'm looking forward to it. And
Brandon,
continue to wish them well in post-production.
Brandon, thank you so much. Best of luck to you. Thank you so much. So yeah, so I was talking to Superman. I was talking to Brandon Routh.
Now you have to talk to writers.
It's okay. You make the world go round. So he was saying that it brings a lot of faculty and like the blob to mind. Talk about some of y'all's inspirations and were they among them?
One of my biggest inspirations was Larry Cohen's The Stuff, which is a very satirical movie, sort of in the vein of The Blob, but I love The Blob, especially Chuck Russell's remake, but Larry Cohen's The Stuff has so much more on its mind. And then Brian Yuzna's Society, especially the more violent bits of that film, inspired some of the early drafts before we toned it down to PG-13.
I was mostly thinking about 16 Candles, like a teen movie that I think is, a little rough and a little fun, and like it sticks with me for a long time. And that's where I was looking at it. It's a teen movie, fun teen movie.
Okay, yeah, I was going right to the gore.
So Brandon was also saying it has humor. Talk about the role of humor in horror because I feel like it's almost essential.
Yeah, a good scare is the same as a good joke. It's a setup and a punchline. It's just, is the punchline you jump back or you laugh? But they're fundamentally the same structure. And, especially in a movie like Ick, we use humor to sort of throw you off balance and to get you, comfortable in the world before we launch you into the gore and the violence.
Yeah. I think that a lot of modern horror is sort of like trauma based these days, and it's pretty like heavy, and certainly all God's creatures have a place in the choir, but I miss really fun, fist-pumping, exciting, funny horror movies, and Ick is definitely one of those.
Right, 80s horror.
Yeah.
That classic kind of Evil Dead 2 house kind of horror movie.
Love it.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Nice to meet you.